What if I told you the United States has its own ocean? Not the Pacific, not the Atlantic. I'm talking about a hidden sea, one that doesn't look like an ocean on a map, but acts like one in every way that matters. It's powerful enough to build land, destroy it, feed entire ecosystems, and even shape the weather on the other side of the world. You've seen it before. It's that calm blue curve sitting under the southern US coast, the Gulf of Mexico. At first glance, it looks simple, just a peaceful, half-moon stretch of water tucked between the US, Mexico, and Cuba. But that calm surface, it's a lie, because beneath it lies one of the most complex, most powerful, and most mysterious bodies of water on Earth. This isn't just a gulf, it's America's tiny ocean, and it defies everything you thought you knew about geography.com that hides chaos. Look at the Gulf of Mexico on a globe and you might think it's small, just a warm patch off the coast, but size can be deceiving. The Gulf spans more than 600,000 square miles. That's bigger than Iran, and large enough to fit the state of Texas twice. So, it's not really a gulf. It's a mini-ocean trapped inside the continent with its own tides, currents, and storms. It breathes heat, drives weather, and fuels life across thousands of miles. And because of its unique shape, the Gulf doesn't behave like any normal sea. It's surrounded almost completely by land, like a massive blue bowl. Only two narrow openings connect it to the Atlantic Ocean, the Yucatan Channel, and the Straits of Florida. Through those tight gateways, the Gulf breathes, pulling water in, swirling it, and slowly releasing it back out. That design traps heat, salt, and nutrients, turning the Gulf into a swirling, living cauldron of energy. The rivers that feed the sea. But the Gulf isn't just fed by the ocean, it's fed by the continent itself. More than 33 major river systems, draining over 60% of the entire United States, eventually pour into the Gulf of Mexico. That's the majority of America's heartland, from the Great Plains to the Appalachians. And at the center of it all lies one river, the giant that shapes the Gulf's destiny, the Mississippi. Every single second, the Mississippi River sends about 593,000 cubic feet of fresh water into the Gulf. That's enough to fill the Superdome in just 3 minutes. And that water doesn't come alone. It carries sediment, rich soil, nutrients, and minerals from farmlands thousands of miles away. For thousands of years, that sediment built new land, forming the Great Louisiana Delta. So much of southern Louisiana, including New Orleans, literally came from other states. The ground beneath those homes was once dirt from Illinois, Iowa, and Ohio, washed south over centuries. The Gulf became a place where ocean water and river water meet, mixing salt and fresh into something entirely new. It's not quite a sea, not quite a river, but a living blend of both. The coast, that's disappearing, but here's the dark side of that story. The same Mississippi River that once built new land is now destroying it. Modern dams and levees have stopped much of that sediment from reaching the sea. So now, instead of expanding, the Gulf's coastline is shrinking fast. Louisiana alone loses a football field of land every 100 minutes. Every hour, the ocean takes another bite out of the map. What took nature thousands of years to build is vanishing in one lifetime. Drive along the Louisiana coast today, and you'll see ghost forests, dead trees, standing in water where solid ground used to be. The delta that built itself over millennia is sinking, breaking apart, and being swallowed by the sea. It's one of the fastest disappearing coastlines in the world, and the Gulf is both the cause and the victim. A hidden landscape below. If you could somehow drain the Gulf, what you'd see below would shock you. It's not a smooth seafloor, it's a hidden landscape. Near Florida and the Yucatan Peninsula, the seabed stretches wide and shallow, like a sandy shelf that extends for hundreds of miles. But move west, and it drops off suddenly into the Sigsbee Deep, a dark pit plunging more than 14,000 feet below the surface. You might expect that depth to come from violent earthquakes or volcanic trenches, but the Gulf's story is different. The seafloor isn't jagged, it's smooth, covered in miles of soft mud. Beneath that mud lies layer upon layer of history, a secret record stretching back hundreds of millions of years, and buried under it all is the story of how the Gulf was born in fire. Let's rewind time about 200 million years, back to when dinosaurs ruled and the continents were still glued together as one giant landmass called Pangaea. Then, something dramatic happened. the Earth's crust began to tear apart. Molten rock rose up through cracks, splitting what would become North America from South America in the middle of that rift. The ground sank, forming a shallow sea. Sometimes it connected to the ocean. Sometimes it dried up completely. Under the blazing Mesozoic sun, the trapped water evaporated again and again, leaving behind layers of salt so thick they stretched for miles. Over millions of years, rivers filled the basin with mud, burying the salt under mountains of sediment. But salt isn't like other rock. Under pressure, it moves. It flows upward, slow but steady, like thick honey. Those rising salt domes bent and cracked the layers above them, creating hidden traps, places where gas and oil could collect. The Gulf's geology was quietly setting the stage for one of the richest energy basins in the world, the Gulf's secret treasure. Fast forward to modern times. As humans explored and drilled into the Gulf's floor, they discovered something incredible those ancient salt domes had. Trapped billions of barrels of oil and natural gas. The same salt that once came from ancient seas became the foundation for modern energy. Today, the Gulf of Mexico supplies roughly 15% of America's crude oil and nearly half of its offshore production cities. Like Houston and New Orleans owe much of their growth to this hidden treasure beneath the waves. Drilling platforms now rise above the water like metallic forests, tapping into reservoirs formed before humans even existed. But this isn't just an industrial story. It's a story about how a random twist of geology can change the course of nations. The Gulf's power isn't just beneath the surface, it's also above it. And that's where the real chaos begins. Here's where things start to get scary. Because of its closed shape, the Gulf of Mexico acts like a massive heat trap. Sunlight pours down all summer, and since the water can't easily circulate out, that heat builds up. By late summer, the surface water can reach 88 degrees Fahrenheit, 31 degrees Celsius. That's warmer than a hot tub. And it's not just the top layer. The heat seeps deep, turning the Gulf into a giant thermal battery. This makes it one of the most energetic bodies of water on the planet. And all that energy doesn't just sit there quietly. It fuels storms. It creates hurricanes. It gives birth to monsters. The loop current, the Gulf's beating heart. Deep beneath the surface flows a river you can't see. The loop current, it's a massive conveyor belt of warm Caribbean water that sweeps into the Gulf through the Yucatan Channel, curves north, then loops back out through the Straits of Florida. This current is the Gulf's heartbeat. It keeps the water constantly moving and constantly warming, and that warmth is fuel, pure energy waiting to be unleashed. When a tropical storm drifts over the loop current, it's like dropping a match into gasoline. In just a day or two, a weak storm can explode into a category for hurricane. That's exactly what happened with storms like Katrina, Rita, and Harvey, all supercharged by the Gulf's hot, deep waters. It's incredible and terrifying that something so beautiful can turn so violent so fast when heat becomes power. The Gulf's power doesn't stop at hurricanes. Even the heat that doesn't form storms still has somewhere to go. It flows out through the Straits of Florida and becomes something even bigger. The Gulf Stream is one of the strongest currents on Earth, a warm river within the ocean itself. It carries more water than every river on the planet combined. And as it flows north along the US coast and across the Atlantic, it takes the Gulf's stored heat with it. That heat changes the world. How the Gulf warms Europe? The Gulf Stream travels thousands of miles across the Atlantic before releasing its warmth into the air over Western Europe. That heat keeps countries like Ireland, France, and the UK much milder than they should be. Here's a fun comparison. London and Calgary. Canada sit at almost the same latitude. But while London gets rain and green grass all winter, Calgary freezes under snow. The difference? The Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf's heat literally keeps Europe from freezing. Without it, much of Western Europe might be locked in ice, and human history there could have been entirely different. So, the next time you walk through a mild London drizzle, you're feeling warmth that started thousands of miles away in the Gulf, near Florida and Texas, a sea that connects everything. The Gulf connects more than just oceans. It connects stories. It links the Rocky Mountains to Europe's winters. It ties ancient geology to modern storms. It's where North America's rivers end and the Atlantic's great currents begin. Every piece of the Gulf plays a part. The Mississippi feeds it. The Yucatan traps it. Florida Straits release it. It's a perfect, complicated loop, a miniature Earth system running on its own rhythm. Its coastlines are alive, constantly reshaped by tides, storms, and sediment. The Gulf gives and takes, builds and destroys, never stopping for a single day. That's what makes it so fascinating. It's always changing. You can't draw a permanent line where land ends and sea begins. The two are in a constant dance, trading places over centuries. The Gulf's fragile future. But now, the Gulf faces threats that nature alone didn't create. Oil spills, pollution from rivers, and rising temperatures are putting pressure on the system. Coral reefs are dying, fish populations are shifting, and the wetlands that protect cities from hurricanes are disappearing. The same heat that powers life also powers destruction. Each year, hurricanes grow stronger as waters warm. Coastal communities, from Texas to Florida, now live on the edge of that balance between beauty and danger. And yet, despite everything, the Gulf remains breathtaking. Stand on a beach in Pensacola, Tampa, or Cancun, and you can feel it. That mix of calm and hidden power. It's as if the sea itself remembers its violent birth and keeps that energy locked inside the ocean that shouldn't exist. When you think about it, the Gulf of Mexico shouldn't even exist the way it does. It's too closed off to act like an ocean, too vast to be a bay, and too warm to stay calm. It's an ocean pretending to be a sea, a natural contradiction that somehow works. It was born from fire and salt. It was fed by rivers and storms. It holds the power to destroy cities and warm continents. Every drop inside it carries pieces of history from the time of dinosaurs to the time of oil rigs, and through all of it, the Gulf has kept its quiet rhythm, defying logic and shaping the world in ways we're still trying to understand. The Gulf of Mexico isn't just water on a map. It's one of Earth's great engines, a giant living system that connects land, sea, and sky. It's proof that geography isn't fixed, it's alive. Rivers move, coastlines shift, oceans breathe. And sometimes, a small patch of water between countries can change the fate of the entire planet. The Gulf of Mexico defies geography because it creates its own. It doesn't just sit there. It shapes everything around it, from weather to energy, from land to life. So, the next time you look at a map and see that small blue curve under the US, remember what's hiding there. A sea that was born from fire, a coastline built by rivers, a hidden ocean that fuels hurricanes and warms nations half a world away. That's not just geography. That's a story, one still being written by wind, water, and time. If this blew your mind, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about our planet. And share this with someone who loves Earth's hidden mysteries. Because sometimes, the biggest wonders aren't on the edges of space. They're right here in the waters that touch our own shores.